Are you getting frustrated with what to feed a teenager who's always hungry? Everybody knows that teenagers have a huge appetite. It seems like you need to feed them constantly to satisfy their hunger. It's even more difficult where teenagers who struggle with their weight truly want to make changes, like cut down on junk food or stop overeating, and they can't. There's frustration, isolation, stress, and that's why I decided to create a recipe collection of 30 easy and healthy meals for teenagers. They're all high in protein to satisfy your teenager's hunger, and they can all be ready in less than 30 minutes. If you want to grab a free copy, go to lifestyleforteens.com/recipes. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Lifestyle and Weight Loss for Teens podcast. This is Dr. Jenny Gourgari, and on today's episode, I'm going to talk about calorie counting. It may sound like a smart way to control the weight, but for teenagers, especially for puberty, it's a little bit more complicated. I'll walk you through the benefits, the risks, and what the research says, and plus I'll say what I've seen actually work for long-term success with the teens that I have worked with. Should teens count calories to lose weight? It sounds like a smart move, but I've seen it backfire so many times. This is Dr. Jenny Gourgari, and I'm passionate about helping teens reach a healthy weight in a safe and realistic way. In this episode, I will break down what are the pros, the cons of counting calories, and what does the research shows about calorie counting in teenagers. Now, if you are a teen or you are a parent of a teen who's trying to get to a healthy weight, then this episode is for you, and I hope this will be helpful. Now, first of all, let me just start by saying, what is calorie counting? What are some of the methods that teenagers and adults use to count calories? Calories is, simply put, is a way to track how many calories you eat every day. And the more calories you eat, the more likely to gain weight if you eat more than the necessary calories that your body needs according to your requirements. So if a certain teenager needs 2,000 calories per day and they consume 3,000 instead, then by consuming an extra 1,000 calories every day, that's going to lead to weight gain. Now, the question that comes in mind is how many calories is appropriate for a teenager? All the teenagers are not the same. The calories that every teenager needs in order to sustain their weight, or even if they want to lose weight or if they want to gain weight, that depends on what is their current height, their current weight, how much activity they're doing, which stage they are in puberty, if they're still growing or if they're not growing. Those are factors that play a role into what are the specific caloric requirements of a certain teenager. So we can have two boys that are both 14 years of age. One plays basketball 3 hours every day and is still growing, is early in puberty and still growing. The other one is a 14-year-old boy who spends his time watching video games, and he has had relatively early puberty and has now stopped growing. Those two boys don't have the same caloric requirement. So if you want to know how many calories a teenager need or how many calories your teenager needs, I would highly recommend you meet with a registered dietitian that can take into account all these factors and then give you an estimate. Roughly speaking, I would say between 2,000 and 3,000 calories is what most teenagers require. And in general, girls require less calories than boys. So teenage boys require more calories than girls. Now, the way that teenagers use to count calories, or what they can do if they do want to count calories, they can use certain apps that can track how much they eat, and it will give you the caloric requirement. One of them is MyFitnessPal. There are many more available online. So what you do is you go, you put your food in, you put the quantity, and then it gives you the calories. You can even set a goal of what your calories you want to consume every day. And based on that, you can have, at the end of the day, you will know whether you consumed enough or you consumed more than what you needed. Another way to do it is to just write it down in a piece of paper, keep a journal and write, this is what I ate, and then do the calories yourself at the end. If you keep doing it many times, you start to know how many calories are in certain foods. And some people just keep a log mentally. They don't write it anywhere. They just remember what they ate and they just keep it on their head. Now, the goal of this, as I said, if a teenager counts calories, to stay below a certain threshold, and then the hope is that by doing that, they will be able to lose weight and get to a healthier weight if they are on the heavier side. Now, what are some of the pros of counting calories in teenagers? The number one, in my opinion, is that it can help our teenagers build awareness about the food that they're eating and whether that has a lot of calories or less calories. For example, a teenager can find out that whether you have one piece of cake or whether you have one piece of broccoli to satisfy your hunger, if you need a quick snack, there is a big difference in terms of the calories. By doing this more and more, you build awareness. The second thing is that teenagers learn about the importance of portion control. They notice that if they put 2 cups or 3 cups or 2 plates instead of 1 plate, they realize what is the effect of the portion control in the amount of the calories that they are eating. The third thing that measuring calories can do for teenagers is that it can potentially reduce overeating, and especially of ultra-processed snacks, if the teenagers realize that this is going to get them to go overboard their set limits for the day. Another thing that is good with measuring calories is that it gives a sense of control. Like a lot of teenagers who feel overwhelmed, who don't know what to eat, they're frustrated, they don't know if they're doing a good job. It gives them like a rule to follow. They feel that they can choose what they want to eat as long as they maintain under a certain number. So it provides some structure to work with. And some teenagers like to work under this structure. Now, another thing that measuring calories can do for teenagers is that when it is done under supervision by a coach or a dietitian, it can be a nice way to kickstart the healthy habits lifestyle. This is like one of the first steps, is easy to follow. They know what they need to do and they start doing it. And that way they can, again, feel more motivated and feel more confident that they're actually following something that they want to do. They follow the path, and eventually they will get the results that they want. Okay, now, what are the negatives of counting calories in teenagers? Because it's not only positives, there can be negatives too. The main negative is that there is risk of disordered eating. Now, what does disordered eating mean? Disordered eating means that are patterns of eating that are not healthy. Like, for example, skipping meals intentionally, even though when you're hungry, can be a disordered eating pattern. Skipping breakfast when you actually want to eat breakfast because you're hungry, that's an unhealthy pattern. If a teenager goes to exercise excessively because they had a big meal and they want to burn calories to balance what they ate, that's an example of a disordered eating. Sometimes this focus with strict caloric count can increase this kind of behaviors. Another negative effect is that it can create anxiety in teenagers around the numbers of the calories that they have consumed. They may start counting excessively. A third negative effect of measuring calories is that it doesn't take into account the hunger signals. So teenagers can focus only on how much they ate, and if they're hungry, they kind of ignore that. Or if they're hungry, they may still choose something that has calories to meet their caloric requirement, but not necessarily to meet their hunger signals in their body. For example, they might end up and have a bag of chips that has 200 calories instead of having something that is more nutritious, let's say like Greek yogurt and an egg, which can have the same calories, but it is way more filling and it can satisfy hunger better than a bag of chips. Another negative effect of calories is that it does not take into account the quality of the food. As I mentioned the example before, eating 200 calories from chips and 200 calories from fish or chicken, even though it's the same amount, it's not the same in terms of satisfying hunger. Caloric counting does not take into account the quality of the food. It just focuses on quantity and numbers. Therefore, that may not be necessarily the best approach. And finally, let's be honest about this. Everybody, including adults and teenagers, don't log food the perfect way. Mistakes are very common, and oftentimes we tend to underestimate the amount of calories or the quantity that we are consuming, or we may not count mindless snacks that we may eat. We may not actually include that in the caloric counting because we say, oh, that's just a small cake, it doesn't count, or that's just a small plate when in fact it's a big plate. So a lot of inaccuracies in the caloric counting can make this method less beneficial, and people may not get the results that they want because they don't log the calories the right way. So to summarize, there are both negatives and positives when it comes to counting calories in teenagers. So what is the answer? Should teenagers count calories or they should not? The answer, like many other answers, is it depends. It's not a straightforward yes or not. Measuring calories is just a tool. It's a learning tool that can be beneficial when a teenager tries to get most of the benefits without as much negative effects as possible. So the best way to do caloric count would be if it's usually short term, it's hard to be long-lived. It can be supported by a professional to see if it's mainly used as a tool to build awareness around what is healthy eating and whether the overall pattern is within the expected terms or not. Usually it is very hard to keep caloric restriction for a long time, and it also has the risk of rebound effect, especially with those diets that are very strict. They create this sense of starvation, and then at the end of the diet there is rebound weight gain when teenagers start to eat again normally. So in my opinion, we should see this exercise of counting calories more as how can we build the skills around what is healthy, not the numbers, but how to recognize hunger and what are the different options, how does that makes us feel. In my opinion, another approach that can be better is, for example, the plate method. It's much easier where half of the plate is with veggies, a quarter of the plate has protein, and a quarter of the has whole grains. Again, we try to use one regular plate, and we also track habits, like how much fruits and vegetables I ate, how much protein, how much water, how many servings of vegetables. We also want to focus on overall lifestyle, which does not include only food, because getting into a healthy lifestyle and maintaining a healthy weight and a healthy lifestyle also requires that teenagers also sleep enough hours, they exercise more, they have less stress, and they feel that this is sustainable and not restrictive, and they focus on this for a long term. So next time when you try to eat something, notice how that meal make you feel. Did it make you feel good afterwards, or did it make you feel that you overate and you're stuffed and you're heavy and you're tired, you don't feel well, or you feel sad, or you feel upset, and all those things. There is also certain foods that are more beneficial to teenagers that naturally have more insulin resistance. So choosing options that minimize the insulin resistance of puberty can be beneficial. And so if you're putting the effort, do it in a way that is in alignment with your puberty, not against it. So to summarize, calorie counting can help some teenagers, but it may not be beneficial for all teenagers. If you are measuring calories, or if your teenager is measuring calories and that does not lead to obsession with it, and you actually are able to have a healthy relationship with food and not a strict set of rules, then that would be a good way to do it. And also, if it is progress, like doing better one day than you did yesterday, that is also important. If you use it as a method to keep a log of what is going on and how your habits and how your nutrition improves over time, that is also very helpful. So I hope this was helpful. If you watch this on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can also download my free resources for 30 recipes, lifestyleforteens.com/recipes, if you want a quick start on 30 recipes that are high in protein and can be ready in less than 30 minutes for teenagers. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.